Okay, you guys, happy Vlogtober! First one out today, and since I need to dye some yarn today, I thought I would show you how I do that. First of all, I have a big bucket of yarn here soaking, and I have 4 skeins of DK weight yarns in that one, and I have soaked them. Actually, I soaked these last night, but you need to soak them about half an hour or more. And I soaked them in 3 liters of water and 1.5 tablespoons of citric acid. I use this one. And then, when I'm going to dye it, I will transfer it to my canteen, excuse me, in which I also have 3 liters of water and 1.5 tablespoons of citric acid, and it's for the dye to actually to bind to the yarn. Okay, so let's see. Now I'm going to carefully pick up these skeins. Oh, this one's a bit messy. There we go. And I'm going to squeeze out some of the water. And here's what it looks like. And as you can see, I have these plastic straps on it. It's because it will be easier for me to handle the skein while it's wet and while rinsing it and picking it up and down and ensuring that the yarn doesn't get too tangled. Then I will place it in the canteen like that. I want as much surface as possible on from the skein. And let's see if we can find the next one. There we go. Would you like my bracelet? My kid gave it to me. Okay, and that's the next one. Okay, what is that? Black flakes or something. Okay, next one. Oh, this managed to tangle some. Just dip it up and down and it will clear itself out. There we go. It's a bit trickier today because I have a camera right in my workspace here. And let's see if we can find the last one. There we go. I'm just squeezing the water out here right now. As you can see, it is still very, very wet, so it's just so it doesn't drip. Okay, now we have our skeins here, and I want them as evenly distributed as possible. I'm going to remove this one. There we go. Okay, so now we're ready to start adding the dye. Alrighty then, I had to change batteries on my camera, it died. Okay, next up we are going to add some dye, and today I'm going to dye my autumn leaves colorway. So I will be using Jacquard acid dyes in Sun Yellow, you see that? Sun Yellow and Kelly Green, and I am using Burnt Orange as well. Now, okay, let's see. Now what we need to do is to heat up the water, and it's very important that you don't do that beforehand because you don't want to shock the fibers. So now that I have everything soaked and in the canteen, I'm going to turn up the heat. As you can see, I will be using both of these, and I will be kind of twisting and turning to make sure everything gets heated. And since this is a very, very fine powder, I will be using a face mask while adding it. So I'm going to put that on, and I might sound slightly muted. Okay, so here's what I do. I also have it's an old yogurt bucket that I use to have my spoon in some water to be able to poke the yarn. And I also have that, and I use just a regular teaspoon. And I'm kind of sprinkling a bit here and there. And I always start with the yellow one because it's the lightest color. And it's the one that bleeds the less. The darker the color, the more it bleeds. I'm doing this. No, there's no particular pattern to this. I'm just going on a whim. Okay, that looks good. Okay. Now we are going to grab the spoon and I'm going to press down the yellow color. I don't want these piles of powder in the pan. So I'm kind of, I guess you could say I'm blending it into the yarn. And I'm kind of heavy on the yellow, as you can see. There's a lot of yellow dye in this pot knife. Poke, 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 poke. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to add the next color. And I'm going to do the orange. Now this is a lot heavier dye, so I need to be slightly lighter on my hands here. Otherwise this is going to take over entirely. Just sprinkling. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. And it really isn't harder than this. This is very, very easy to dye on. You can always, it's very easy to get rather cheap yarns as well for dyeing. When you're starting out, you don't want to go straight to the more expensive yarns. This is a DK Bluefest Leicester that I'm dyeing on today, which is a bit more expensive, but I bought, what was that? Oh, I don't remember. It was a plain wool, very cheap, non-dyed yarn that I started dyeing on when I first got into this. Now this is not a how-to, and this is, like, this is how you do it. This is how I do it. I think every dyer has their own technique. I'm more of a dyeing on a whim person. There are some dyers who have, like the entire color wheel and all that, and goes by that when they're dyeing. I'm more of a, oh, I want to do that, and then I just make my best. It's a lot of color down. I need to transfer some over here. But yeah. Okay, getting there, but we still have one more dye to add, which is the Kelly Green. And this one I only want small flecks here and there. Just a wee bit here and there. And these will blend and mix with each other, all the colors. Oh, I love that. That was a huge spink. But there you go. It's hand-dyed yarns. This is where their personality comes from. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but it is starting to boil here, and we don't want that. So we are now turning down the heat. I'm removing the face mask so I can breathe. I'll just gently dab the Kelly green as well. This one I'm very careful with because since I just want it to be like spots here and there. Not speckles, won't be speckles when you do it like this. Actually, I just need to practice dyeing speckles. Okay, this is where we are starting. And I will now be moving the tray back and forth to make sure everything gets heated properly. And in a while we are going to flip over the yarn and make sure that the other side is also dyed, because there will be, you know, the bottom side of this will have less color than the top side. So once I have established that it is the pot is warm enough all over, and I actually do this by, I put on some gloves because this dye really sticks. I put on some gloves and I'll just poke my fingers into it and make sure it's warm. Probably not a method that works for everyone, but that's how I do it. Okay, so now we're going to heat this up, and it's just, you know, smoke just fine, but it's not going to boil. It just needs to be hot. Okay, it has had some more time to heat up, and now it's time to flip the skeins. And you need to do this really carefully because there will be, otherwise you'll have dye all over your kitchen. So you just pick it up, and if you look closely you can see there are lighter spots right here. So I'm picking it up, and be mindful this is very, very hot. I burned my fingers all the time in the beginning, but I think by now I don't know, maybe I've lost all feeling. Oh, we do have quite a lot of dye on the other side as well, which is good. I don't know if you can tell, but we are starting to get some real autumny feels here. It's very orangey and yellow. Let's see. Let's do that side up. Okay. There we go. Well, like I said, this is really, really hot. So be careful. I need to go rinse my hands. There we are. And back on the stove you go. Okay, we are actually almost done. Since I have a lot of dye still in the pot and I don't have any big white blotches, I'm not going to add any more dye into this. But if I wanted to make it, let's say, lighter, I would add more of the yellow dye, for example. Or if I had big white patches, I would just add in some more. But I'm happy with this. And now that the yarn has kind of grabbed a lot of color already, I will be going over it like this with my spoon. And make sure you do not use the same utensils and canteens or pots and pans that you use for cooking. Please keep them separate. But I'm going over it like this just to make sure that I get dye in between and on all the strands of the yarn. Turn on the heat a little bit more. You can see it was almost wants to boil here, and we don't want that. And I'll just scooch the pan around just to make sure all the water gets warmed, gets heated. And as you can see up here, it is starting to clear up. We do not have as much dye in the pan now, and what we're looking for is for the water to be clear. I don't always get that when I do these heavy dyes. Sometimes I'll settle for not quite clear, because there's so much dye in the pot, so it's impossible to exhaust it completely. But that is generally what you're looking for. So, yeah, that's it. I'm just going to make sure that everything is heated once again. I have made sure I have everything covered. All the strands of yarns are getting some dye. And once that is done, I will remove the pot from the stove, and I will just have it sit until it has cooled completely before I go rinse it. And that's it. That's all there is to it.